Can we finally get through with this preseason already? We just, towards the end of the game, we're sitting there watching and saying, all right, this thing's about to wrap up. Comfortable win as they turned it up in the second half and pulled away comfortably from the visiting Brooklyn Nets. And then Jared McCain falls on his back and it's scary. And can we just get the preseason done so they can get through this thing unscathed, get to the regular season? Hopefully he's able to get suit up and be able to be eligible for Nick Nurse in that season and home opener next Wednesday, and everything will be fine. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast, the post-game show in the preseason, brought to us by, of course, Rothman Orthopedics and Bet365. We appreciate our two sponsors, as always, two great sponsors. And Roy,
sir,
back-to-back game early on. Nets lead, Sixers lead. Sixers stay in the lead. Nets trying to come back a little bit and make it interesting. And not too much from the starters at all in the second half. KJ Martin did play a little bit.
Right.
But for the most part, they led this one comfortably and handled their business. But after seeing something like that, it's just one of those, can we get done with this thing already?
You know, there was the thumbnail on your guys' last show, yesterday's show, was sigh of relief about the Paul George thing.
Yeah.
Is this sigh of relief 2.0? Like, again, this is 2 days in a row we have to worry about Sixers injuries and whether or not they'll be lingering. Hopefully, I mean, Jared McCain, he's a young kid. He's probably made of rubber, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But again, it was a scary situation. I mean, he's laying on the court, coughing like repeatedly after, what we saw after he laid on his back. So again, prayers up for Jared McCain. Hopefully we'll get an update from the guys later on in the show. But again, we don't need this. Again, the number one rule of preseason is everybody healthy. If everybody gets through the game healthy, that's a positive. That's a plus. The game is a plus. And unfortunately, we have to deal with yet another injury in a preseason game.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll wait to find out. The guys will join us later on. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, live from South Philly. From the center, we'll get the update on Jared McCain and what was going on there in the event that they do provide some sort of update on what's going on. Again, seemed like there was something wrong with his chest there. And as Roy mentioned, just coughing on the floor, and he was able to walk off on his own power. So hopefully that's a good sign that everything is okay for Jared McCain. In it, they do pick up the victory in this one by a final score 117-95. Their third, I think it's their third win. Yeah, third win of the preseason. So they're now 3-2.
Yes.
And with one more to go on Friday against the Orlando Magic in Orlando. I'd imagine not too many guys play in that one.
Hopefully empty the bench for that one, please.
Yeah, empty the bench for that one. Let some guys show out a little bit. A lot of Judah Mintz in that game. A lot of Tucker in that game.
Was it Lester Quinones?
Yes, let's get more Lester Quinones in there on the two-way deal, see if he can shoot the basketball. But for this one, Paul George out, as we know. We talked about that pregame. No Joel Embiid, Kyle Lowry resting tonight as well. So the starters, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Eric Gordon, no Caleb Martin in the starting lineup, came off the bench. We'll talk about him, KJ Martin, and Andre Drummond. And in this one, we talked about how Kelly Oubre likes to have that syndrome of I'm the best player on the floor. And while we know it to be Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre showed himself and did really well in this one with the game best 18 points, played under control, some solid defense, the outside shooting, finishing at the rim. He did a lot of good tonight in this one.
Quite a bit of good. And you mentioned finishing at the rim. He led the team in free throw attempts heading into this game. He had 10 free throw attempts in the preseason. 6 for 7 from the line tonight. Like, he was attacking the basket. He was making a point to get to the basket. He only averaged 3.4 free throw attempts per game last season. So I'm wondering if this is a new Kelly Oubre. I'm going to ask the guys later, and hopefully ask the guys later. And, is this going to be the Kelly Oubre that we see this year? The Kelly Oubre that makes him more of a point to attack the basket, because he appears to be doing that this preseason, and he did that quite a bit in the first half tonight. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more of that element to Kelly's game this year.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that they've talked about quite a bit last season, following the year and one-year contract, kind of a prove-it deal for him, trying to find a home, establish himself in one spot, and doing so by playing under control, not having that reputation of just being a gunner out there on the floor. But he played under the structure of Nick Nurse. He called Nick Nurse a rock star. Nick Nurse talked about how important Kelly Oubre was for him, and the same for the president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, giving him a 2-year deal. Second year as a player option, not a team option, a player option on that 2-year deal because of what he did last season. He spoke at training camp while we were in the Bahamas about how it was a different feel, knowing that he wasn't now playing for something and not having to prove anymore. He has already proven. Now, he still has an opportunity to increase his bankroll with another really good season, opting out and getting more than the $9 million in the 25-26 campaign, starting a new 3-year or multi-year deal. But coming in, playing well, looks like if the one thing that we can say about Nick Nurse's shuffling of the starting lineups, he has been in them. Right. He has not come off the bench. It's been Caleb Martin. So if that's any indication of how well he's played, at least in the training camp, practices, and the preseason games, the coaching staffs like what they see out of him. You
need that irrational confidence guy, as you mentioned. That irrational confidence guy is a good piece to have in your starting lineup. And, he's going to be the guy, who's going to, he's not going to shy away from taking the open shot. And as we've seen this year, he's not going to shy away from driving and trying to attack the basket when he can. So, again, you need those kind of guys like that, especially, with Embiid in the lineup. You need floor spacers, guys who aren't going to be able to, scared to take shots, which is why Kelly Oubre is a good fit around Joel Embiid. Eric Gordon's a good fit around Joel Embiid. Just guys who are going to say, hey, if I have an open shot, my defender's sagging off me, I'm going to pull up. And again, those are perfect complementary pieces to your big man.
No, it really is, man. So to have that type of scoring, to have that irrational confidence, to be able to have someone who can step up with Tyrese Maxey, because you have no Paul George in this one, and since you don't have that secondary wing scoring from George, you need somebody else to be able to do so. And he did so within the flow of the offense, to your point. Getting to the free throw line 7 times, making 6 of those. There was the funny play, of course, with the alley-oop from Tyrese Maxey where he had 2 guys still. Hey, I loved it. I was in here pumping my fists, guys, gals, everybody out there, because I'm like, yeah, point guard Maxey throwing the lob, putting it there perfectly, timing it perfectly, and putting it right on the spot where it needed to be. Just still 2 guys there. You got to, hey, you can't call out and say, no, that's for KJ.
Right.
Somebody has to get it.
He's got to throw it up.
It's good to have 2 guys that can go up there and get it because of the past. You haven't seen that in the Sixers uniform.
That's
a good problem to have. But that being said, running the floor, defensive effort, 3-point shooting tonight for Kelly Oubre, where he was 2 for 3. Again, 5 for 8, 2 for 3, and he still had 18 points on the 8. So very efficient. Good decision making. Only 1 turnover on the night in 21 minutes, and that's all you hope out of him. You're not going to get 18 a night. It's very possible that he averages somewhere between 12 and 15, or if you want to jump that up and say 15 to 18. But on nights where Paul George is a guy that's a candidate to sit out because of the load management that they've already discussed, Kelly Oubre is going to be that one that can create his own shot, can now at least show him from last season and this season. He knows Nick Nurse's offense. He knows how to play off of Maxey and Embiid and play off of some of the other teammates, the new teammates that he has. But he can also go out there and create his own where everybody else is seemingly relying on someone else to get them their shot. So these are some of the things that are positive that you can check off for Kelly Oubre. Now, as much as he has the irrational confidence, we're not going to get overly irrational about who he is, because he will have those nights where he drives us crazy. We know there's a Jekyll and Hyde to his game. But more often than not, you're probably going to see the good out of Kelly Oubre. So tonight, they got the good out of Kelly Oubre with that team best 18. How do you like him when he does decide, I'm putting the ball, this is mine here, I got this? Maxey wasn't shooting the ball well anyway. He was 2 for 7, 1 for 5 from 3. He had 7 points, messing up our Bet365 best bets. Again, only making the 1 3-pointer. But how do you feel about him as a scorer, playing under control in Nick Nurse's system with those other players out there? And again, most importantly, knowing how to play with everybody else and understanding that, hey, the ball will come to me. I will get mine.
Right. And I feel good because, as we talked about in the pregame, this is going to be the guy that you need quite a bit this season, because, again, Joel Embiid is going to not play, both ends of back-to-backs. Paul George probably isn't going to play a lot of back-to-backs this year. So you're going to need that ancillary scorer that's not named Tyrese Maxey or whoever's out there between Paul George and Joel Embiid. So give me a guy off, give me a secondary guy like, Kelly Oubre, who I know can get 20 if he gets hot and plays within the offense, and plays off of Tyrese Maxey. I know he can get me 20. I know he can get me 18. We saw it tonight in a half, against that team that's trying hard. Not to say that they're good, but we know that Kelly Oubre is a talented scorer and can get you 20 on any given night when he's more, I guess it's Dr. Jekyll. So when he's more Jekyll than Hyde. So I like that. I mean, again, like, we haven't had that many teams in recent history where you're the guy, one of the guys who wasn't your star could get you 20, right? That's always my thing. It's like, who can get me 20 if I need 20? Kelly Oubre can get you 20. And we have a couple other guys on this team who can do that as well. But having Kelly Oubre being that consistent guy in the lineup who can play off of Maxey, who can be that ancillary scorer,
he had 20,
is a benefit.
5 of 8 shooting. I don't remember this because I'm asking you quickly here.
Sure.
Did they give him the goaltending point? Did they give him the points for goaltending?
He had 18, but he can get.
No, I'm asking you. Did they give him 2 for that, or did they ever go back?
I don't think they did.
So he really did have 20 because that was goaltending when the defender had his hands there
through the net,
through the net and through the rim on the attempt there, where it looked like he was fouled and the ball, all that. It looked like he was going to flush it on him. Quick update here from Kyle Neubeck, our teammate that we will try to effort in catching up with after the game. Both he and Derek Bodner checking in with Kyle Neubeck here on Twitter, where he says, per the Sixers, Jared McCain is being evaluated by the medical staff following the fall, including for a concussion. Further updates as appropriate. He will not be available for the media post-game. Also following up, Kyle does, Jared McCain is going to the hospital following tonight's game, according to head coach Nick Nurse.
Okay, yeah. Prayers up for Jared McCain again. That was a very scary moment on the floor. So he's going to the hospital. He can be evaluated for concussion. But like you said, he walked off under his own power. So that appeers to be a decent sign. Obviously, I don't think we see him on Friday. Just hopefully everything's okay and he's ready to go by for next Wednesday.
Yeah, because again, that is 7 days away. Hopefully concussion. It's not. Hopefully nothing serious within his chest area, since he was coughing and holding his chest a lot. And we hope that the rookie, who seemingly a lot of people are really getting to like in the Sixers uniform, we hope that everything is okay with Jared McCain. Tonight he did play a decent amount of minutes. McCain did, coming off the bench for 23 minutes. He had 9 points, 3 of 10, 3 of 6 from 3. All of his shots made from the 3-point line. 5 turnovers.
Yeah, a little rough. 5 turnovers.
5 turnovers.
I think four came in the third quarter. A little rough patch, but the third quarter very preseason-y for those of you who watched the game. But again, like he kind of made amends for that, making a couple 3-pointers, in the mix. So had a decent night, all things considered, again. But the most important thing is his health, and we'll find out more about that in the coming days. So.
Yes, absolutely. He had 2 assists and 7 rebounds. So the scouting report for him coming out of college was that he is a tenacious rebounder, even for that small frame and at the guard position. So he gets in there, sticks his nose in there, battles it out, and gets after that rebound. And that's exactly what he did tonight. So we hope that Jared McCain is okay. Any other updates that do come out tonight while we're here doing the show, we will provide those as best as we can for you going forward. All right, so just to see Kelly Oubre play that way is a positive sign. 3-2 record, 1 more game against the Orlando Magic. The wins are not necessarily what matters. They are nice. It's more about the performances individually, the camaraderie, the chemistry that you do build, especially with so many new players. But to have that guy who is going to be a key part of this team from day one, from game 1 for Nick Nurse's team, and once again, to be able to play off of Tyrese Maxey and play off of some of those others is crucial for him and his confidence. To know that his coaching staff still has that belief in him to go out there and be the player that he is. Having a veteran, and he talked about, as young as he is, he's in year 10, but he's still young because we know he came out as a freshman from Kansas, and he's still very, very young at like 27, 28, somewhere around something like that. And for him to be that young and be a veteran, or 8 years or whatever it might be 8 years, I think it is. 27 years old, 8 years.
28.
28, yeah. So
9 years.
So 9 years in the league overall. And for him to be in this spot and be that veteran, he has been through a lot of roles. With Washington as a rookie behind Bradley Beal, John Wall. He was the up and coming. Next, so they start to move on. He has a role there. Then he goes to, I believe it was Phoenix, Golden State. Different types of roles all around. Makes his way to Charlotte, where the team stinks. 1 playoff appearance, I think it was play-in. And he's been through a lot, as we've talked about him over the years. And he has finally found himself in a role where, number one, they're a winning team, a contender. He's a big piece of that after his performance from last season. And they treated him as such this offseason on a 2-year deal at decent money, and explaining and making it very clear to him that he is, again, a key factor for what their 24-25 campaign is going to be. So once again, performances like this mean something just because we know that he can do it.
Right.
Paul George is going to miss some time because of those load management games, and he may not even start the season. We don't know yet, but in the event that he doesn't, you're still going to need someone on the wing to be that secondary scorer behind Tyrese Maxey to take some of that pressure off of him. And with that, this was a nice showing from the 8-year vet, about to be a 9-year vet, 9-year vet in the league, and what he can do and what he can show on the floor. His two-way ability is also something that has sparked a lot of conversation, because when we talk about him starting with Caleb Martin and Paul George, it's because of his now two-way ability that he showed last season as a guy who can extend his defense, pick a point guard up 75 feet away from the basket. He doesn't get tired. I don't think I've ever seen him get fatigued in a game. He just doesn't. Some of those guys are like that. Tyrese Maxey's like that. He's like that. Right. There's certain players that just the fatigue does not show. And with it, that defense is also, Roy, going to be important because of all the wings that we speak of, especially when you get ready for a Milwaukee game where it's going to be Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, and they even picked up Gary Trent Jr. as a free agent. You need someone like him with the other two to extend the defense, to help out the big men on the glass, to help out Yabusele or Andre Drummond when they're in there on the glass, to take away, again, pressure, not just offensively, but now defensively because of what he's shown as a two-way player. And
you saw a lot of that, not necessarily just from Kelly tonight, but just from all the wings tonight, especially in the first half. They had active hands. Like that was one of the things I posted about earlier tonight, just active hands. They had 7 steals in that first half, and they forced 13 Nets turnovers. They turned into 15 points. I mean, they were just in the passing lanes. They were, jumping the passing lanes, had the hands working. And again, you're going to need that. Again, the Nets aren't good. They're a little bit a sloppy team. And they're going to kind of give you a couple turnovers. But you're going to need those guys to get and jump in the passing lanes to make those turnovers, to force other teams, into making good passes. And again, like as you said, Kelly Oubre has shown that, over the last year plus, he can be that additional perimeter defender that can kind of cause a little bit of havoc out there, foul line extended.
Yeah, so good showing from him, and we'll get to our player of the game conversation a little bit later. But we have so many more players to talk about, to discuss about their performance tonight in the Sixers. 117-95 comfortable win over the Brooklyn Nets. One other takeaway from this one before we get to our friends here, the Nets are bad. We knew it already, and we know that. I know it was a preseason. You didn't have Ben Simmons. You did not have Nick Claxton. Day'Ron Sharpe did not play either. It's not a good basketball team.
I don't know if you saw the tweet from Kyle earlier tonight.
What did he say?
He said, the biggest takeaway, this is a quote from Kyle Neubeck on Twitter, quote, the biggest takeaway from the first 13.5 minutes of this game is that the Nets are going to stink. That's as succinct as you can get when it comes to this Nets team. This Nets team, I saw on our friends bet 365, the over-under is 19.5 wins.
I'll go over because not too many teams dip below 20, but man,
listen,
that's a good number.
I'm gonna say this, look, me, Kyle, Derek, all of us, Rich, we're all at Liberty Ballers. When the Sixers went 3 straight years without winning 20 games.
Fair enough.
All right,
fair enough.
This Nets team is very
Are they
reminiscent.
that bad?
This is very reminiscent of those Sixers teams. I mean, look,
they do have an all-star on their team.
Okay. Sure.
He used to be.
I mean, you saw the first half, this is a Nets team that tries to push the pace. They're not good, so they try to push the pace, try to get a bunch of possessions. They shot 31 threes in the first half. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're just trying to push the pace, get you off your game, force you into turnovers and just, basically just out energy you to a couple, to wins. And they're just not good, man. This is very reminiscent of some of those teams we saw with Brett Brown.
Yeah. Well, the Nets are very bad, so you better not lose to them. 4 wins in the regular season for the Sixers.
There should be
Atlantic
4.
Division
Again,
opponent.
You never know, injuries and things.
And games happen.
Back-to-backs,
I don't know if they play them at the end of the season where the Sixers might have their seeding wrapped up. You're all good.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, this is the PHLY Sixers post-game podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics and Bet365. That's Roy Burton. I'm Devon Givens. Brianna's here with you. We have plenty more to get to. We're going to take a quick break. We come right back and talk about some more positives in this win over the Nets here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show. And let me tell you about the National Thoroughbred League. You're like, what? Who? What? Well, let me tell you about the National Thoroughbred League here, because with the National Thoroughbred League on Saturday, October 19th, the National Thoroughbred League owns the day at Parks Racing with lineups of 5 NTL races and Philadelphia's biggest day of racing outside of the Pennsylvania Derby, the NCL Philadelphia Cup, hosted by Dr. J himself, Philadelphia Stallions co-owner Julius Irving. Nice. Yes, you also get meet and greets with dozen Philadelphia sports legends, including Dr. J, of course, as well as Eagles greats Brian Westbrook and Seth Joyner, as well as Freddie Mitchell will be there, plus many more, and few New York Giants as well. Go ahead and check out the website, NTL Racing, to find out more. There's a private beer garden with great brews on tap, incredible art demonstrations starring Eric Wall, the NTL's Guinness record-holding artist in residence, and of course, the most exciting day of racing anywhere this year, the NTL 10 teams from the Stallions to the New York Knights to the California Shamrocks, facing off in 5 consecutive races. Doors open at noon and races start at 2:30. We're partnering with NTL to give diehards exclusive access to this event. Just show your email subscription at the gates for free admission. For more info, once again, visit ntl.racing. Shady Rays.
Time now to talk about our good friends at Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. And most importantly, for Sixers fans like us, they probably have a style in the red, white, and blue that you can rock this fall for this upcoming Sixers season. If your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. Shady Rays has the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by a lost or broken replacement guarantee. And if you don't love your shades, you can either exchange them or go for a new pair or return them worry-free for 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with fast, personalized support. Exclusively for our listeners and viewers here at PHLY, Shady Rays is offering their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try it for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Again, head to shadyrays.com and use promo code PHLY for 35% off of your order.
Yes, as I look at some of the things here in the chat, and our guy, Martian says, thank goodness, Cuz is not on that team anymore.
That'd have been a long season. That would have been a long season for McCain.
I'm thankful.
Goodness gracious.
Thankful. I had to watch a lot of stuff there with that basketball team. But, you know, it's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah. Not worried about them anymore. Good luck to the Brooklyn Nets. They were very good for us. He got paid.
Exactly.
And stayed healthy.
Checks cash.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. All right. Who else stood out for you in this one, man? Because I think we agree that KJ Martin, we talked about him pregame. He got the nod in place of Paul George, and he looked pretty good, man. Very active. Again, up there with Kelly Oubre for that lob a little bit earlier. But, man, he looked pretty good in this one.
Acquitted himself pretty well, that power forward position.
He's going to get some minutes probably.
Yeah, no, again, like we talked about in the pregame, Nick Nurse was saying that he plays big, and he played pretty big tonight. It was a 12 points, 6 rebounds, plus 12, pretty active. I mean, you saw him banging a little bit, you know, down low. I mean, again, you know, he's got to be in that tournament. Like I'm trying to figure out in my mind, I mean, the most important person is Nick Nurse, but I'm trying to figure out in my mind who gets those backup 4 minutes behind Caleb Martin. And if KJ Martin plays the way he did tonight, then you know what? He might have, you know, the biggest hat in the ring right now. He played pretty well tonight. Again, I know it's the Nets, but as you told me before, they have like a lot of long, bouncy, you know, as Charles Barkley would say, athletic guys. Yeah. You know, down in the post. And again, like it's not easy to rebound against this Nets team, and KJ Martin did pretty well tonight.
No, he really did. And the competition, as you're talking about, that's Yabusele. Also acquitted himself pretty well tonight. Even though it was the 5, we saw some 4 later where he was on the floor with Andre Drummond at the same time. Only for a few minutes, but KJ Martin was good, man. Again, showing his athleticism, showing his tenacity to get to the ball, and he was active around the rim. We saw a nice little soft touch on a jump hook there, a little floater, a little soft touch there around the rim for a bucket there. Again, just making himself available in the middle of the floor for opportunities at the rim. The energy, always on full display. The effort, and we already know about the hops, so we've seen that plenty of time. But he was just really good tonight, and he is really battling for those. He's giving Nick Nurse and the coaching staff something to really think about when it comes to those power forward minutes, the first one to call. And Andre Drummond, if Joel Embiid is going to play, Andre Drummond is the first big off the bench as far as that goes. But if we're talking the 4 spot and Caleb Martin, Paul George, and Kelly Oubre are your starters, I don't know, man.
Yeah, you got to think.
Knowing that you have seen KJ Martin at the 4 and have not seen a lot of minutes from Yabusele at the 4, right. I would think that he gets the edge right now if they're calling a number, and it's probably number 1.
Yeah, that's why one of the questions I have for the guys is because we thought that we were going to get more Yabusele minutes at the 4 tonight, and maybe it just game situation kind of happened. But again, we got a pretty decent, healthy amount of KJ Martin minutes at the 4, and he looked pretty good. So again, if you had to rank everybody right now as far as who's your best option at that 4 spot, it's probably KJ Martin. And just to kind of dovetail on what you were saying, what he did tonight, that third quarter when I said it got a little preseason-y, he kind of settled the team down a little bit.
Yes, he did.
He was kind of like that settling influence with that second unit. As that veteran, say like, look, guys, stop throwing the ball all over the lot and kind of just run our stuff. And KJ Martin looked pretty good, as he should, against the Nets team. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say that he's in the lead because we haven't seen Gershon Yabusele as a 4.
But that's our barometer.
But that's all we have.
Yeah.
All we have is what we saw tonight against this Nets team. So if this is all the information that we have, then yeah, KJ Martin probably would be your number 1 option as your backup 4.
No, he has played well. He again, being here last season, being here from the start of training camp also, and not being here as a guy who came through midway through a trade, having to play and fight for more minutes with Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, and Robert Covington, not to mention the players that were already on the roster. It was a tough get through that and chip away and find some minutes, but he has done that and composing himself well once again in a game like this where he gets to start. You get to see him at the 4, and because of what we have to look at, he is the one that's probably in that lead, just simply because he has played well in that spot. And they've called his number a couple. Did he start I think he might have started in another game also. It is the preseason, so he probably gets that start. But his numbers tonight, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2 offensive for KJ Martin in 26 minutes. And he played really, really well. Plus 12, yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of funny that we're talking about, again, after one preseason game, we're talking about KJ Martin like this when, remember the summer, we're like, maybe they'll sign KJ Martin to some crazy contract.
The 2-year deal.
He'll be a trade, candidate. Now he's like, you know what? This guy's a rotation guy, and he might be your best backup power forward. It only takes one game to kind of shift the narrative a little bit. But again, KJ Martin, did exactly what he was supposed to do tonight against the Nets. I mean, kudos to him for taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yep. So KJ Martin with another good night. Anybody else in the starting lineup? You mentioned, I know you wanted to talk about one guy, so I'll let you get to that.
Talk about Eric Gordon.
Talk about Eric Gordon, man.
The old guys? I mean,
he's the other candidate, and that's a good thing, man. Another candidate that could be a starter.
Yeah.
Because of his shooting.
Give me a guy, again, I don't know if he can give you 20 anymore, but he averaged, 11, 12 last year?
Yeah.
If you need a guy that says, hey, man, you know what? We're a little short-handed tonight. Can you, chip in? Can you take a couple extra shots and do something for us? Eric Gordon's that guy. He shot, 38% from 3 last year. Not afraid to shoot the ball. He was, 2 for 3 tonight, 8 points. Didn't play. Actually, I think he didn't play after the first quarter, right?
Nope, he did not, yeah.
So 8 points in the first quarter for Eric Gordon. Look, sign me up. Not for that, but sign me up for that kind of play for Eric Gordon. He's another guy, again, like Kelly Oubre, like Paul George, like Tyrese Maxey, that can stretch the floor for Joel Embiid. So again, the more guys who are willing and able to shoot the ball, especially a guy like Eric Gordon who shoots pretty deep threes. More guys who can create that gravity and create that space for Joel Embiid to work in the post, the better.
Played just under 8 minutes, as you talked about.
8 minutes, okay.
Got up 5 shots. 3 for 5, 8 points,
up,
2 for 2 from beyond the 3-point line. had a block and an assist in there. So he had an active 8 minutes. He was busy.
Man. Jeez, get that man some icy hot.
Get him some ice. That's why he only played just under 8 minutes to make sure he get him some icy hot. But no, two things that stood out. One is the first shot. Of course, we know Eric Gordon. That's what he does. That's why they brought him in. They signed him to the deal to be that guy who can stretch the floor out there to give. It came off of a nice play where Andre Drummond set a screen. I know I wrote it in my notes. He set a screen, and when he set that screen, he gets to a spot and finds Eric Gordon after Andre Drummond sets that screen for him, a quick flare out, popping out, and he finds him in his shooting pocket to get that shot off, and he knocks it down. And it was a good look from Tyrese Maxey. We'll get to him in the very next segment about his playmaking ability and the things that he did tonight, which were some positive signs. Mm-hmm. But the other one was Eric Gordon coming around the left side, and he had two guys. He had one guy trailing him, and of course, the screen being set, he spots up in his spot. And when the ball does find him in his shooting pocket, he didn't hesitate. He had two defenders there because his screener, his man was still there and has not retreated yet. And Gordon just acted as if he wasn't there and got a good shot off, made it. But that's what he does. He is one of those players that's been doing this for years in the NBA. He knows how to score. He knows how to shoot. His athleticism is not there like he used to. He'll pull one out of his pocket every now and again and bang it on you in traffic. And even today in transition, during the broadcast, they mentioned how, I think it was Allah mentioned that he slowed down. And he did, but he was also running a little bit slower because of his age. Right. But in his day, when he was in his prime, when he was at Indiana, high school to Indiana to the Clippers to, everywhere else he has been, when he was in his prime, Eric Gordon, his body control at the rim was so good.
Very good.
So good. And he has not lost that. It's just the lift isn't there like it used to. So even with the defender barreling down on him, trailing him in transition, sure, he slowed up and went at his pace because he's not what he used to be athletically and speed-wise, but he was still able to, as a veteran, understand body control, get the shot up, get to the right side of the rim, flip it up, and score that 2 points in transition. He's a smart offensive player. Right. He knows what he's doing defensively. He may be a liability for a majority of the time, but he knows angles. He knows team defense. He knows how to get the spots. He knows if they're switching, of course, what he needs to do. And he's going to have a defensive guy behind him to help clean up some mess if he's in the game with Joel Embiid. And when he's out there with those other wings, two of them, I presume he would be out there with, they'll pick up a lot of that slack defensively. Good night for him. This is what they brought him in for. He will have those nights. You mentioned averaging 11 for the Suns a season ago. He had about a good 8-9 games where he scored over 20 points, where he knocked down 7 threes, where he knocked down a bunch of triples because that's what he does. So he still has that in him. And when he was signed, Kyle had reported that he was brought here for a reason, to get minutes and be a contributor. So he's going to play some significant minutes for this basketball team.
I know you guys had talked about it a little bit before, I guess earlier this week. So let me just ask you, like, if and when Paul George is out, if and when Joel Embiid's out, there was some discussion, that he might slide into that starting lineup at some point. Do you think that's a possibility, a probability that Eric Gordon's that extra starter if one of those guys is out?
Opponent based.
Determined on opponent? Okay.
Yeah, because we saw it against the Hawks on Monday. He started. Caleb Martin came off the bench. The head coach wanting to see different lineups, as was mentioned before the game this evening, that was one of those that is probably going to be up in the air just in case. Hey, because of this opponent, let's give him a shooter out there. Let's give him somebody that, while Paul George can be that shooter, but maybe Paul George doesn't play one day, someone else has to start, and you keep Caleb Martin with Kelly Oubre in the starting lineup, and you do put Eric Gordon as a replacement because of his outside shooting to stretch the floor up against that particular opponent and their wing defense. So that's how I see it. So I do believe you. And look, we have so much more to get to. This was a good night for the Sixers, and it's probably the last time we get a chance to see the starters or the regulars in this one. You saw Eric Gordon played less than 8 minutes and still had 8 points. So we'll talk about much more when we get back in the Sixers win over the Nets here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show.
It's time now to talk about our friends at Coors Light. Between work, social media, and the choices life throws our way, we're all a bit more worked up than usual. Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset. Why not turn...
Choose chill, everybody.
Exactly. Why not turn a rained-out barbecue into a karaoke house party? Or after a tough loss like a few of those that we've seen from the local football team, why not settle scores with an ice-cold peace offering? Make the choice to choose chill and reach for a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment. Now, I can't lie, got a little bit worked up when I saw Paul George's leg bend in the way that legs aren't meant to bend in, earlier this week, and got a little worked up when Jared McCain fell earlier tonight. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the perfect time to choose chill.
Choose chill.
So if I had thought about it, I would have gone to the fridge here at PHLY Studios, grabbed a refreshing Coors Light, and taken care of my problems with that way. Now, Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smooth finish. Coors Light is crisp, mountain cold refreshment, and when the mountains on the label turn blue, you'll know that it's as cool as the Colorado Rockies. When you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
And during the game with Bree and Rich, at some point we were talking about somebody pulling their hair out and they might have to go see somebody. And that somebody was our good people at Glatt Hair Restoration. Morgenstern Center for Orbital and Facial Plastic Surgery recently welcomed the Glatt Group to the practice, creating an invaluable opportunity to leverage Dr. Glatt's high-caliber brand equity and begin an exciting chapter in Dr. Morgenstern's highly respected league. They have a great relationship. They did. And as a true advocate and a part of PHLY Sports, we are excited to have John Marks spearhead our marketing campaign on his new platform, educating his audience through authentic stories and engaging narrative. I've known Johnny for 17 years. I think it's 17 now. My daughter's 17. So I think John has been around all that time. I've known John for that long, and Johnny's been talking about Dr. Glatt and now Morgenstern Center for years now. So now part of the Morgenstern Center, Glatt Hair Restoration is under the direction of the renowned plastic surgeon, Dr. Ken Mortenstern. So you're still in very good hands, and anyone can buy the equipment and say they do hair restoration, but only Glatt Hair offers decades of proven results using an innovative approach and delivered by leaders in the industry. So each patient, you receive a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. If you are curious of how this works, that's how it works. They treat you as a one-on-one situation, and they make sure you're good with this one-on-one consultation. If you're looking to go, check it out. Bald is now optional. I heard the guys talking about it. E-Rock and Black Gritty and Roy, they were talking, bald is now optional. But if you do want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself, not to saying you won't look good as a bald guy, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit GlattHairMCTR.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast. Roy,
sir.
Anybody else stand out to you in this one? Some good things.
Can we talk about another old guy?
Please talk about the old guy.
Man, so I like to talk about the older guys in this roster.
Talk about the old guy.
Shout out to the homie Andre Drummond. 7 points, 9 rebounds in 13 minutes.
9 boards,
One
man.
rebound short.
9 boards. See?
1 rebound short of a certain parlay that I will not mention.
Tyrese and Drum. All right.
1 rebound short. But
it's preseason.
It's preseason.
That's why I had that number so low. Again,
right.
I only went 10. I probably would have went 15. He had 15 on Monday.
10 is a reasonable number. The man got 9 in 13 minutes.
I know
10 is a reasonable number.
That is impressive.
Yeah. So again, I'll take 7 points and 9 rebounds in 13 minutes. Now, there were a couple of times where he got a bit out over his skis. He got a bit out over his skis in the second quarter. He thought it was Shake Milton time or something. Like he saw Shake Milton on the other bench. He's like, you know what? I gotta be Shake Milton 2.0. Because there were times when Shake Milton, you guys know when Shake Milton was here, there were some times where Shake Milton said, you know what, it's Shake Milton time. Andre Drummond said, it's Andre Drummond time tonight. My man tried to put the ball on the floor. I don't know what he was trying to do, but he got a bit anxious tonight because it was a little preseason. I don't want to see that in the regular season, but I do want to see the rebounds and I do want to see the score. He was really aggressive. I mean, he's pretty aggressive tonight, and that's again, you're going to need that quite a bit this season with Joel Embiid and his injury. The injury situation.
Pretty aggressive offensively. He put the ball on the floor, brought the ball up from the three-point line and decided, you know what? I'm not passing the basketball. Nope. He did a nice little wiggle and a little in and out with the basketball, went to the basket, turned his back, and finished with the nice little elbow. I mean, shoulder to the chest, went up, got the bucket, and I'm like, yo, what the? And then he scored.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Had a nice offensive rebound, put the ball back on the floor. You know you don't do that because the small guys will get in there and swipe the basketball away, keep the ball high.
Keep the ball up, big man.
That's it. Keep the ball up there, big fella. You're a vet. You already know that. But, hey, it's the preseason. I understand what you're doing. You're trying to get your points in the way that you do by hustling and get those offensive rebounds. But that said, Andre Drummond, this is why they signed him to the contract that they did, giving him a little bit more than the cap space, than the cap space that we talked about at the moment of, man, should they have given him that more than the league minimum? You see why, because he's going to play more, because Embiid is going to miss that time. No back-to-backs, the time that we already thought anyway with the load management and all. But he is a guy who, number one, has played with Tyrese Maxey, so he knows him. He's very comfortable with Reggie Jackson. When Jackson does play, he's very comfortable with him. And he's a vet that just knows who he is and what his job is. He could probably start in this league still at this age if the center position did not change the way that it did mid-prime for Andre Drummond. He still has a lot left, and he can rebound the basketball, and he showed that again tonight.
He did show that. Now, I know we've been fairly positive for the most part, because, again, the blowout win, 22-point win, things like that. You were very upset at one point about the fact that they were just letting the Nets just shoot all sorts of corner threes during the game, especially in the first half. Because, again,
was I wrong?
No, you weren't wrong. I'm just saying, like that's a problem that we need to address, right?
Yes, we do, because the corner three-pointer problem tonight, the defense, while it's a minor thing and it is a preseason and it is the Brooklyn Nets, in the first half, they shot 12 for 32 from behind the three-point line to the Sixers, 6 for 15. So, look, they got up way more than the Sixers. They shot 3 less. I mean, they made 3 less than the Sixers shot overall, and a big number of those came from those corner three-pointers. So it's a minor thing, but it's more of a scouting and recognizing the Sixers defense for what it is. And while Paul George was not out there, and neither was Joel Embiid, you got it. In the NBA, the short corner three is the best shot from behind the three-point line, easily. This is why Andre Drummond can shoot from the corner. This is why Yabusele, they have him shooting mostly from the corner, because it's the easiest three-point. They call it the short corner three for a reason.
Exactly. It's the shortest three.
It's the shortest distance from behind the three-point line, and they have to make sure. While I did not recognize it as much in the other 4 games before tonight, it was evident tonight that they did not defend the three-point line from the corner based on whatever the defense was. If you want to give credit to the Nets for their offensive movement and making it a priority to have their guys in the corner, every team makes sure that they have a player in the corner to shoot threes. PJ Tucker is very good at it. For years, there were I can't remember the guy's name. He was Dorian Finney-Smith, even with the Brooklyn Nets, is a guy who can shoot very well from the corner. But there are so many players that Trevor Ariza, that's what I'm thinking. Trevor Ariza was a destroyer from the corner, especially in his Houston days, that you have to locate the players in the corner for their three-pointers. So it was a minor thing for me that showed up in this preseason game, and it could have just been, it's the preseason, but it could also be something that you don't want to happen where a number is so far apart when we look at the stats at halftime, and unfortunately maybe at the end of the game where they lost because they did not defend the corner three-pointer well enough, and tonight it showed up in a big way in that first half. They cleaned it up a little bit more in the second half, so I'd imagine the coaches saw what I saw, and they talked about it at halftime. But in that first half, they had 12. 6 or 7 of those had to be from the corner.
Yeah, I think a lot of it from the first half, I think a lot of it was just movement. I think they were just kind of moving without the ball pretty well. They played mostly man. When you brought it up, they switched the zone, which was kind of
yeah, right.
Like as soon as you said it, they immediately switched the zone. You know, like the 4-minute mark in the second quarter. Let me ask you, because again, like, you know, we have issues. I mean, I don't say issues, but there are a couple of guys on this team that aren't the best perimeter defenders. If a team is killing you, you know, with those corner threes, I mean, what do you do as a coach? What do you do? What do you tell your team to do in order to kind of shut that down?
Number one, I would say communicate. The communication has to be key, because in order for you to communicate, hey, I got this. You know, you don't want 2 guys gathering around the wing and losing this guy because you're trying to trap, or you get lost a little bit and saying, hey, and that's the beauty of what they are going to have with those 3 wings when they're all healthy, and Oubre, Martin, and George, is that the switching is that's just what you do.
Right.
You're just doing it.
Yeah.
Right. It's automatic. So the automatic switch is going to be key. And with that, I think some of that will be cleaned up. So that's the communicate. I mean, that's the one part, because it's going to be an automatic switch. But then number two, again, it's the communication and making sure that you do identify who that is. You do not lose your personnel and find that guy. The ball's going to swing. And with the switchability that you have, you shouldn't get caught too often scrambling and finding a player out there in the corner. So I would say that. And then, yeah, if you want to go zone and try to, because somebody's just like Cam Johnson is a dead-eye shooter in the NBA. Right. If you want to make sure that you're taking that away from someone like him, you do that. And you're not going to play a boxing one, or you're not going to do that, even though Nick Nurse was known to show some different stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But, yeah, just make sure you communicate, and the switchability will help out a lot. So we have more, and maybe we'll catch up with the guys here shortly from the center to get their thoughts, but we have to take one more break. Yes, it's basketball season. The games are back. So we're busy, folks, which is a good thing. We got a lot of people paying our bills, and we really appreciate that. So when we come back, we'll get a little bit more in here. We'll talk about a lot more with this game, mostly positive with this one, especially with one more game to go. One more game to go. PHLY Sixers postgame show right here on this Wednesday night. All right, our presenting sponsor for our betting segment in the pregame. They're also a sponsor here for the postgame show with our good people from Rothman Orthopedics that we talked about, and now we talk about Bet365. And Bet365 has you covered with our pregame pick segment, which we did that one a little bit earlier, of course. And now we also have to let you know that never ordinary. It's not about just the basketball. You got an LCS game going on right now between LA and New York. Maybe you want to place a live in-game bet with this one. I saw somebody in the chat saying, I think it was our buddy 2 Minute Warning, Al, saying, great shot by Sabrina. New York won by 3 over Minnesota in the WNBA Finals. Maybe you want to place a bet there, and Bet365 has the best way to do that with the live in-game betting. Over 90 million users worldwide, 780,000 events each year, and early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. And when you do that, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. And when you get on that app on your phone, like I do here, you know what you do? You get to see the little box of the game in the corner. So while you're live betting, it's happening on your screen. That's beauty. So right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. When you bet just $5, use the code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10. Place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and much more. So when you do that and you sign up, make sure you do that whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to tell you about some PHLY events that we have going on. We got an event coming up with the Birds, PHLY Eagles Show, the watch party, live show, Sunday,
I will
1
be there.
o'clock. Roy will be there for the pregame coverage, the live show, the watch party. Roy will be there. Everybody will be there. Jamie will be there with Roy, and they're going to get you set again with a big-time watch party here, and it's going to be a fun time if you show up. State Street Pub in Media, PA. Hope to see you out there. Diehards, come on out. If you're not a diehard member, sign up to become a diehard member to get early access to events like this. We told you about the horse racing event with Dr. J as a big guy there, Brian Westbrook and all. But diehard members, become a diehard. Sign up right now to get the latest and greatest on the events that PHLY has. So watch party, live show, Philadelphia, New York. Saquon going back to New York. It's going to be fun.
And let's not bury the lead. You know, if you show up, if you come buy a ticket to the event, we're giving away a pair of club box seats to Eagles Commanders.
Oh, which is now a good game.
Eagles Commanders is a good
might
game.
Be for the lead in the division.
Might be for the NFC East.
And when is that game? Is that the next game?
November
game?
November the 14th.
Okay.
Yeah. So again,
I'll be there for that.
It was a $10 ticket. Get you a Miller Lite and a ticket to an entry into the raffle for the club box seats. So hey.
Always giving away great giveaways and prizes like the tickets. So go ahead, show up, sign up. And that is presented by Miller Lite. All right. Make sure you sign up for the Die Hard program so you can also read the stories that Kyle and Derek put together from a game like this one tonight, whether it's the good stuff, some of the bad things, certainly writing an update to have Jared McCain in there and hoping that the recovery is good for the young fella
Absolutely.
after such a scary fall. All right. With this one here tonight, because I won't see you until the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about this team right now? What are you looking at from this team going forward? Have they shown you anything in the preseason that you feel will have you carry over to the regular season of how good this basketball team, or is it?
I feel pretty good about this team. Strangely enough, I feel a lot better after tonight than I did, after the Atlanta game. Just because, again, like I feel more confident in, again, I'll say the backup 4 position. I feel confident that you have an answer for that. I've been a fan of PHLY, since the summer, since what we saw, overseas in the Olympics. So again, I know he's a competent guy. I'm just happy that we now have, 9 at least guys that you can throw into a pretty decent regular season / playoff rotation that I'm not concerned about. Like again, like it's been a while since we've had that many guys where you can just kind of put them on the floor and not really worry about them. The PHLYs, the Martins, the Kyle Lowrys, Eric Gordons, things like that. So I feel pretty good about this team. Again, are they world beaters? Are they going to win 60 games? Probably not, given the word that we got from the Joel Embiid back-to-backs and everything like that. But again, this is a very good team. And my only issue, my only question, and again, I'll pose this to you, and I'll pose this to folks out in the chat. I just don't know with, again, Embiid not playing back-to-backs and Paul George probably going to be staggered at some point as well as far as his play. How are they going to, or are they going to have enough time to build that chemistry that they need in order to, to be that team they need to be in May? Because that's my question. That's my biggest question.
And look, it's been mentioned, again, Paul George mentioned that after the injury occurred on Monday night when he was talking to Gina Mizell. That's what he discussed. That's what he was talking about. He talked about not being able to, again, get this preseason work in with the guys. And look, Nick Nurse said, again, he wasn't going to play tonight. Probably wasn't going to play against Orlando.
Right.
So maybe Paul George wasn't going to get any more work with these players. But it would have been nice to at least have the option of being able to see him out there a little bit more with these guys to see that. Now, the question about Embiid, how do you feel about the decision for them going forward? Number one, him. You read the Tim Bontemps story from ESPN.com, and Tim getting that great information of probably no back-to-backs.
Right.
They have 15 back-to-backs, so he's probably just going to play in, a certain amount of games there.
Right.
And with him 8 or 7, whatever it might be of those games, how do you feel about that, number one? And number two, with him being out there, you may also see, even though we talked about it briefly, just a little bit more on Paul George, also maybe not as many games missed, but probably some games missed.
Yeah, and Nick Nurse said, alluded to that, I think, in the Bontemps article, that they would not stagger those guys, but basically, like, there would be, Embiid would be out, George would be in, and almost vice versa. He didn't say it, but I mean, it was kind of, he kind of alluded to the fact that, Paul George would probably not play, a lot of back-to-backs. And again, like, I think this was the whole Joel Embiid thing. I think this was an unspoken thing that we kind of all knew.
The right thing to do?
I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's absolutely the most important thing. And Joel himself said it in the article. He said it before that. The individual stuff doesn't matter anymore. He has an MVP, right? Like he has all defensive accolades. He has all NBA awards. Like he's got the max contract. None of that stuff matters. None of this stuff matters with the Sixers. Like nothing really matters until April 15th or whenever the playoffs start. I mean, that's all that matters right now. And that's why, my main concern is, between now and April 15th, are the 50 games they'll play together, 45 games they play together, is that going to be enough? Now, there's no back-to-backs in October. There's no back-to-backs in April. All right, so at the end of the season, they should be okay. But there's 4 sets of back-to-backs in March, and there's three sets of back-to-backs in the last 2 weeks of March. So, like, right when you're making that playoff push, right when you're probably pushing for, I don't know, second, third, fourth seed, you're going to have games where Paul George and Joel Embiid aren't going to play together, right? Like, can they build that chemistry up, by April or in April, to make that deep playoff run? I hope so. But, again, the most important thing is Joel Embiid healthy, April 15th, is Paul George healthy. Other than that, nothing else really matters.
Well, listen, man, it's going to be a fun season. And look, we have time. I'm not going anywhere. This is going to be a fun season.
Yeah.
It really is. All the moves that they made in the offseason to put this team together, the depth overall. Kyle Lowry back, and even though he wasn't there tonight, we got Reggie Jackson. Like we talked about, I wanted to see him.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Reggie Jackson, what's his role in this team?
See, I think he's behind Kyle Lowry right now.
Right. But, so then what's Jared McCain's role in this team?
But Kyle Lowry is going to do things like tonight, where he has scheduled nights off. Just like those other two, he's going to have scheduled nights off. So is it Jared McCain or is it Reggie Jackson that's going to step up in the moment and play those minutes? Reggie Jackson is the guy we know can score.
Sure.
And having someone out there with Jared McCain to take some of that ball handling pressure, the responsibility off of him, you're going to need somebody out there. So Kyle Lowry coming back, the depth that you have from Lowry and Yabusele now, Andre Drummond, of course, Eric Gordon. They're 9, and if you include KJ Martin now in the 10, it's not. I mean, we already thought it, but it's not bad.
No, it's a good 10. It's the best 10. I'll say it again. It's the best 10 that we've seen, in recent memory. Like almost, I won't say by far, but it's the best 10 we've seen for a while. And that alone gives me optimism that they're going to be fine come playoff time. They just need to get that chemistry and play together enough to make that happen.
All right. So I know you'll be busy when we do, some predictions before the season and all. So I'll ask you right now, how do you feel about where they end up?
Okay.
You watch our shows, we talk anyway. You already know standard is 50. Bet365 had him at 51.
52 and a half.
52 and a half. The Knicks
minus 130. I know. I did my research.
The Knicks were 53 and a half.
Knicks were 53 and a half.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. And this was before the Karl-Anthony Towns trade.
Really?
Yes.
Woo.
Yes. So with that, the standard is 50. I know. Get it. Bet365. Get on there, everybody. Maybe that's our Bet365 pick of the night, right?
PHLY 365. Good Lord.
Right.
My goodness.
Yeah. So standard is 55. All right. So I assume that you're going to have them winning over 50 games because you're already typing in Bet365 on your computer to get there and place that bet.
I already put the bet down.
So where are you? What do you predict today where they finish regular season and postseason?
I think they're probably going to. I don't think. Let me say this: the Bet365, the number was 52 and a half minus 130. I don't think they win that many games, just because.
Ooh,
under. I think they go under 52 and a half.
Ooh, even if it's 50, 51.
No, I said
under.
52. I said 52 and a half. This is again.
That's what I'm saying. It could be 52.
If they win,
could be 51.
Yeah, no, I think they win about 49 to 50 games. Like if you had to pin me down on the number. 50 and 32 for the season.
Okay.
I think they hit your watermark. I think they hit your high watermark at 50. Just because again, with Embiid being out, with Paul George being out, again with the maintenance minutes from everybody, there's just natural, nicks and bumps and things like that. Since 2001, do you know how many times this team has won more than 52 and a half games?
Since 2001?
Since 2001.
7.
1. Happened one time, a couple years ago.
I said 7.
54?
Damn.
Yeah, one time since the Allen Iverson, run to the finals has his team won more than 52 and a half games. It's very difficult to win that many games in the NBA. I know you see it, you see the Warriors, you see like a lot of teams like rip off 60-win seasons. It's very hard to win 52 and a half games, especially, when your best players aren't playing, 82. So I think they win 50 games this year. I think they do make the Eastern Conference Finals. I do. I think this is the year that they, get that monkey off their back and they get past the second round. Probably run into Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think they do what they need to do and
to finally get to that spot.
Slay the second round dragon, whoever it may be at that point.
It's the second round.
Right? Yeah.
It's not even the opponent anymore. It's the second round.
The second round.
That's the dragon that they have to slay. And to your point, last year the Boston Celtics led the entire NBA with wins 64 and 18. The second best record, if you remember, the Sixers were fighting for that 4th spot at the end of the year before they became a play-in team. They were fighting for that 4th spot because nobody had a lot of wins.
Yeah.
The Knicks, one final game of the season got them 50 and the 2 seed. Milwaukee, 49. And Cleveland, 48. The Magic, Pacers, and Sixers at 47 and 35. So to your point, now the West was a different animal. 57, 57, 56, 51, and 50, 49, 49, 47 on down.
Right.
The East, though, the second best team had 50. Now, I will say this, though.
Yes.
They had 47 when Embiid missed as many games as he did.
True.
They did go on an 8-9 game winning streak at the end, but Maxey was very good a lot of times. Maxey was not so good sometimes.
True.
others were not good enough at times, and he still picked up 47, and that was with Embiid missing as much time as he did.
Indeed.
So it's very well. Number one, they're going to get over the 50, whether it's 50, 51, or 52, because there's no 52 and a half in the NBA. But they're definitely getting over that 47 number, and most likely getting over that 50. But the Eastern Conference Finals, okay.
Well, I'm going to say you're saying definitely. Now again,
I think they definitely get over 50.
Now again, like, I'm just going to play devil's advocate. I believe they'll win 50 games, folks. I'm just going to put that out there. Now, let's get in the box for a second. Knicks got better.
Sure.
Boston is as good, maybe better. I don't know how you feel about Boston, but they're better than you. They're better than the Sixers. Orlando's an up-and-coming team. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams in the Eastern Conference. I mean, picking up wins is going to be hard to come by.
Sure they are.
So
you play each of those teams 4 times in the Atlantic Division.
Sure.
The others are 3, sometimes 4.
Sure.
No more, no less than 3.
Sure.
And you bring up Orlando. They handled their business against Orlando last year. Indiana played them very well, gave them problems.
Right.
That could flip this season.
Okay.
And Cleveland, they split, I believe they did. I think they split 2-2 because the Sixers beat them in Cleveland with no Embiid. They had a bunch of guys going off and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I think that because you only play those teams, you play them 4 times each, you're going to beat them at some point. And you're also going to get your fair share of wins against Miami and Indiana, Orlando, Cleveland. They're gonna clip you too.
Right.
So it goes both ways. But if they handle their business against the bottom teams that they need to, like Detroit, Washington, Charlotte, Brooklyn, and those same teams out west from Portland to the Jazz, if they're not as good anymore, the Lakers, if they're not good, you should get your 50 wins on the standard of who the Philadelphia 76ers are, because they now have the depth that they did not have a season ago.
That's a good point.
And if they make that trade at the trade deadline, that could be significant. That's also one.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, the Eastern Conference is, I don't say they're top heavy, but the bottom teams are very bad. like you said, you should clean up against Washington. You should clean up against the Nets. You should clean up against Charlotte.
And you're gonna get clipped because you're gonna sleep on some of those teams, and they're gonna get you.
It'll be 4th game in 5 nights. Or 4th
they're
game
gonna
in 6
get
nights,
you,
and you'll get caught schedule loss or whatever. But I mean that comes with the territory. There are. I would say, just looking at the standings in the Eastern Conference, there's probably like 14 wins you get by accident. You know? So,
absolutely. I mean, Washington is really bad. Brooklyn is bad.
They're horrible.
Detroit, I don't care who they have coaching.
See, that's the thing. Like, Detroit's going to catch some teams.
That's what I'm saying. Right. They're going to catch them, but they're still going to be bad.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And, I mean, look, they got a new coach. They have an up-and-coming player.
They got a sharpshooter, according to himself and his dad.
I'll let you have that.
Tell a friend.
So you have some wins in the Eastern Conference, but Gene says 99-0.
Oh my goodness!
Got to win the right amount of games, right? 17, man. Hey. 17, 99-0. I hear you, Gene.
99-0.
I hear you, Gene. That's what you're supposed to do. Well, listen, the guys are ready, so let's head to the arena and check in at the center and with the guys as we check in here for the check-in with Derek Botner here, joining us on the show live from the center. Derek, thanks for joining us, man. First things first, just to check in, we saw the report that you guys put out there, Kyle put it out there, you guys put out there about Jared McCain, but what else, what can you tell us from being on the ground there from Jared McCain and the update?
It's kind of choppy a little bit.
A little bit. He's fitting it in. So, so just to kind of get back to it before we get back to Derek, we'll get back to Derek in a second. That people, Boots saying Derek on the 1s and 2s. Yes, he is from the center or the helicopter. But we'll get to Derek in just a second as we clear some things up on our end. But look, man, 99-0 is very ambitious, and
very ambitious.
You love to hear it, and we understand. You understand it. But just like we also say during the regular season, Charlotte thinks they're probably going to make the playoffs. Detroit thinks they're better, that they're probably going to sneak into a play-in and make the and having that as the playoffs. Let's just have them in the play-in. But Orlando came out of nowhere. Now they're an up-and-coming team. Those types of things are going to happen. We always say those things. But you said the Eastern Conference Finals. I think Sixer fans would like to hear that. Now, for me, I'll tell you this because I've said this already. We'll get to our prediction show and all that stuff another day. It's NBA Finals for me.
NBA Finals or bust.
Has to.
Has to be.
I didn't say it had to win. You have to get there.
You have to get there. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
For me.
For you.
And that's just because of everything that has happened so far, what they've been through. Sure, this is a new regime of head coach Nick Nurse, and the same thing even with Daryl Morey. But Daryl Morey's been here for a few seasons now. And I understand that they like to always look at the second round. You guys talk too much about that. No, we don't. You just said it's the dragon that needs to be slayed.
Has to be.
But it's not the very end. They want to win the finals. So the second round doesn't matter to them because they're worried about the finals.
Correct.
And I understand that from their perspective. But also from our perspective, you have to take one step to get to that one. And I'm not saying they're going to lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, and neither are you when you said that you finally think that they get there. That being said, I think the NBA Finals is where they need to get to this season. Sure, it's about steps, and they may not even win. Now, if they go to Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, I probably can't destroy them if I wanted to. But if they got to the 7 and they lost, something happened where I'm probably going to be ticked off that they lost in Game 7. Even though it's a competitive series, they've gotten further than they have since 2001. All of that will be wrapped into the conversation. But I think it's about they talk about it. Joel Embiid is taking these new steps to prevent him from being injured to get to the playoffs where he can be at his best. If you're doing that, I think he is one of the best players, the top 5 player in the NBA. Top 3, arguably. And, of course, we've argued that with many people for many years. With that and this wingman that you go out there and get, that's an all-star, this up-and-coming guard that you have, first-time all-star, this depth on this basketball team, as good as these other teams are, they're going to take you 7 games in your respective series.
Absolutely.
I think your talent should beat their talent.
And, to your point, again, there was a list that came out today. ESPN who ranked the top 50 players, and 11 through 50 came out. So I think Paul George was 21. I believe Tyrese Maxey was 19. Obviously, Joel Embiid's going to be in the top 10 somewhere when they release it. You have 3 top 21 players, right? Like, if you have 3 of the best 21 players.
I saw that ESPN top 100 thing there.
If you have 3 of the 21 best players in the world, then, again, I would think that you should have a pretty deep playoff run. So, with the depth that you just talked about, you should be able to make a pretty – because, again, who in the East can boast 3 top 21 players? I mean, as good as the Knicks are, they don't have 3 top 21 players.
Not based on the rankings that we've seen. Yeah, you're right.
Like, if you rank the top 21 guys in the NBA, there wouldn't be 3 Knicks on there. If you did the same thing for the Celtics, I don't think you'd have 3 Celtics on that.
Fair.
So, again, if you have that much top-heavy talent, I think you should have a pretty decent playoff run.
Absolutely. All right, let's try it again. We have some top-heavy talent there at the center.
That's right.
With our group here, we have a team here where we have a good group of Roy, Rich, and certainly Kyle Neubeck and Derek Bodner. Our team is great. Absolutely Bree in there too. We're loaded here on the PHLY Sixers show, and we check back in at the center with Derek Bodner. Derek, just to follow up again, do you have an update based on, outside of what we've seen, of course, from Twitter, an update on Jared McCain? That fall looked very scary, and it was right in front of you and Kyle on press row.
Yeah, so obviously Nick Nurse came out after the game and said that he was, going to the hospital to get looked at, and they mentioned earlier before that they were going to look at him for concussion symptoms. Kyle talked to Kelly Oubre in the locker room. I talked to Jeff Doughton a little bit, and both of them said that they had spoken to Jared after the game, that they thought he would be fine, and that their prayers were with him. Outside of that, we really don't have too much of an update beyond that. But like I said, a couple people who spoke to him, seems like he was in pretty good spirits, and they both think that he should be okay. But obviously that was a little bit of a scary fall he had there, a scary reaction he had to that fall. He looked like he was in very obvious pain. And you don't entirely know, what the full details of that are. But I would say early signs are, at least some people think that he are confident he will be okay. But obviously we want to see that get checked out.
Very, very positive news to hear about Jared McCain. Let's talk a little bit about the power forward position, specifically KJ Martin, who got an extended look and looked fairly decent, kind of acquitted himself pretty well at power forward. Before the game, we had heard Nick Nurse talk about Gershon Yabusele might get some power forward minutes tonight, but he really didn't that much, except for that small stint in the second quarter when he was out there with Andre Drummond. If you had to kind of handicap it right now, who's the leader in the clubhouse in the backup forward position for the Sixers?
Yeah, it's a good question because, Yabu has been playing almost exclusively at center. He did play maybe 3 or so minutes at the power forward spot in that second quarter. Like you said, they played almost exclusively in his zone because the nets were so small. And KJ has had a real good preseason and had a good game here tonight. obviously brings a level of athleticism that's just real tough to match. And he had two, Kyle on press row called it 2.5 lobs because he was fighting for that one lob that went to Kelly in transition. But he has been a lob threat, and he has put a lot of pressure on the rim in that regard. Somebody you really have to body up off ball. He has been good. I will say until he shows that he is confident and capable in that jumper, he didn't make a three today. It's going to be tough, I think, to pencil him in too much. I do think that jumper is going to be big. They've been talking all training camp and all preseason about how much work he's put in and how much he's improved. We haven't really seen it in game action yet, unless you can space the floor. It is going to be tough to put a non-shooting power forward next to someone like, let's say, Andre Drummond in that second unit. And I do think what Yabu has shown with his shot so early on here in the preseason, he was 1 for 2 again from deep here tonight, probably makes him the favorite. But KJ certainly played well, and he's played better than I expected. I think the real question becomes, is he going to be ahead of Ricky in that rotation? And I think quite clearly, based on what he showed in the preseason, he has been the better of the athletic wings.
Definitely looks like it. Derek Bodner joining us live from the center here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show presented by Rothman Orthopedics and Bet365. And Derek, we talked about and gave a nice nod to Kelly Oubre for his night tonight. And we always talk about the irrational confidence, but he believes he is on that level. But tonight he did it very efficiently. When we talk about the lob, that was great to see, but he was active on defense also. But he had to be that secondary scorer with no Paul George tonight and no Embiid, of course. And he showed out well, 5 for 8, knocked in a couple of threes, got to the free throw line, as Roy mentioned, 6 for 7. He acquitted himself really well. And if this at least has to start without Paul George beginning next week against the Milwaukee Bucks, a nice showing in the event that they don't play on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, look, when Kelly is getting out in the break and putting pressure on the rim in that regard, when he's making his threes, and he had a nice dribble into a three, which is something I usually don't like seeing from Kelly, but he looked very comfortable and clean on that one. And when he is getting the free throw line, he is going to be a much different version of himself. I think obviously he hasn't been that, especially with the 3-point shot all the time. We still haven't gotten to see how he's going to play this year next to Joel Embiid, which last year really helped him with that, getting good looks on that perimeter shot. But I think for the most part, we have a pretty good idea of what Kelly is and what he isn't. You're hoping that he can grow with that shot, especially, like I said, getting the extra space playing next to Embiid. And this is, one of the best versions of Kelly that you're going to get. It's obviously coming in a preseason game against a team that is horrible and disinterested. But I think he did everything you would want him to do. And like I said, just getting out in the break, getting a couple of easy ones and making those threes really does help his game go a long way.
We talked a little bit about the power forward, a lot of it about the power forward rotation. Let's talk about the guard rotation, specifically the point guard situation. We discussed a little bit about Jared McCain tonight, outside of the injury. Didn't have the best shooting night, but he led the second unit for a little bit in the third quarter. Obviously, you have Kyle Lowry, who didn't play tonight. Eric Gordon played, 8 minutes, but had a pretty decent shooting night in the first quarter. How does that guard position kind of shake out behind Tyrese Maxey once the regular season rolls around?
Yeah, and obviously Kyle Lowry did not play tonight. McCain was, I think, a little bit up and down, right. Not just with the shot, but, he traveled at one point. Kyle pointed out, he got a 3-second violation. How does a guard get a 3-second violation on defense? You're usually not anywhere even near that. I thought, and defensively, especially earlier on, I thought he struggled. I thought he played a lot better there in that fourth quarter before going down. But I think I've been mostly fairly impressed with the way Jared has played so far in the preseason, and probably more specifically the way he has competed. He's going to have his defensive limitations. I thought we saw that, especially it felt like the Breakers game, oddly enough, was maybe his low point defensively. But, I thought he has, as the preseason has worn on, I think he's looked pretty comfortable as a passer. That shot has been a little bit up and down, but I think clearly I believe in that shot, and I think it's going to be there if you give him enough reps. And defensively, he competes. And the question is purely competing going to be enough? Because I think athleticism-wise, he's got a lot to overcome. He's going to have to learn the tricks of the trade to overcome that. But I think he has probably played better so far in the preseason than I would have expected. I think certainly, a lot of the coaches and players have been talking him up here in the training camp and preseason, but it is a long way to go for a young rookie to be able to make an impact and be a consistent contributor on a team that has the aspirations that the Sixers do. So I think there's a lot of work to do. And obviously, we haven't seen a single game where the whole squad has been healthy. Most of these games here, very few of the star players have been playing outside of Tyrese Maxey. So how well some of these role players fit is going to go a long way in determining which one of them stay in the rotation, and we just haven't gotten a great chance to evaluate that.
Well, listen, man, we appreciate you checking in with us live from the center. Be safe getting home. We'll be back tomorrow together at 3 p.m. With you and Kyle, and we will talk to you then. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Derek.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it. Derek Bodner joining us live from the center. Good breakdown, and of course, good news with Jared McCain. We hope we hear even better news from the team about his after his scary fall. Tough part, of course, is having to evaluate what he did on the floor, but you can do that when you at least get some decent news from the team, and Derek is confident enough that the news was good enough to talk about the game itself. All right, let's get to our player of the game. I don't think there's any surprise, really. Maybe one or two players, but one in particular, our player of the game goes to one. That would be Kelly Oubre. Look at that, player of the game. Look at the scout.
That's a beautiful man right there.
All right, we talked about it. 18 points, game best. Shot 2 for 3 from behind and 3-point line. I had 2. Okay, 2 for 3.
Yeah, 2 for 3. 2 for 3. 5
2 for 3. Sorry about
field.
that. You're absolutely right. Sorry, Bree. 6 for 7 from the free throw line and 5 for 8 overall from the field. And that step back 3, I mean, off the bounce 3 that he had that Derek Bodner just talked about. He was feeling himself there. He was in a good groove right there, and he knocked it down. But Kelly Oubre, our player of the game, and he looked pretty good doing that.
Yeah, and like Derek said, when you get that this Kelly Oubre, the one that's aggressive at attacking the basket, the one that plays the way he did tonight, that's bottle this up. You would love this for 82 games. I'll take it for 30. This is a very efficient Kelly Oubre performance. So kudos to him. He's absolutely our player of the game tonight.
Absolutely. The other candidate was really KJ Martin, but we gave KJ Martin the player of the game on Monday. So
that's fine. We gotta mix it around a little bit.
Yeah. Spread the love.
Spread the love. Thank you.
Spread the love. Spread the love. All right, it's time for us to spread the love to all of you for hanging out with us on this Wednesday night with our world famous Roll Call.
Roll Call.
Let's get to it. We got to thank our good people. Winona checking in. She was on the train when the injury happened, so she was disappointed. She was prayers up for Jared McCain. Thanks, Winona, as always, for checking in. Noob, Eugene Ross. What up, Gene? We also had in here Aaron, Citizen X. He said, brethren, everybody, we got to admit it. The Knicks are better than the Sixers right now. Starting some trouble in there, Citizen X. But, hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us as always. Remo K. Jess. Hey, Jess. Jess was at the game.
Oh.
She said she had a good time at the game. So, awesome. Jess, glad you had a chance to hang out at the game for this final home preseason finale. Habib 215. These injuries suck. Yes, they do. Yes, BC, they do. What up, BC? We see you in there. Who else did we have in there? We already mentioned Gene. We had Devon, a.k.a. Schoolboy B, says the Knicks did not get better with the Karl Anthony Towns trade.
Really?
We didn't really get your thoughts on that, but...
All right, we got to go.
We'll get there. Val host. Hey, Val, the 2-minute warning. What up, Al? We see you, Al. Cheryl is in here. We see Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl. Bootzilla. Boots. What up, Boots? We see you in there. Who else do we have? We had a lot of people in here. Brandon B, Mark Jackson, X-Man. What up, X? We see you hanging out with us on this Wednesday night, this late night. We appreciate everybody hanging in. And I lost a lot of the names in there simply because I was not prepared and did not write them all down.
It's preseason for everybody.
But we love you. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show. You get the alert. And when you do get the alert, it will be the bell icon. Roy, would you do us the honors? There you go. Roy gives us a couple of taps there for the bell. When you like and subscribe, you'll get that noise to indicate it's time for the show. And that will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. with Kyle, Derek, and myself. Brianna will be here. We hope to have you all here as well. Roy, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it. Our show tonight, again, presented by our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics and Bet365. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3 p.m. here on the show. Thank you, Bree. Thanks to everybody out there. Thanks to Derek. Thanks to Kyle. Make sure you go read Kyle's story, the good, bad, the ugly, the recap from this game at allphly.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3. Good night.
We all silly like the mayor.